Good morning and welcome to Coffee Talk with me, Guido. I have my dark roast. It is Sunday morning. It should be 7:30 in the morning, but it's currently 8:30 because of ridiculous daylight savings time. I lost an hour while I slept. Thanks for nothing, politicians. Appreciate it. Anyway, we got a few things to talk about. Kind of quiet right now, actually, as everybody's sort of hunkering down and waiting for 1.0 to show up. But we'll go through the missions as we usually do. Kind of some interesting things in there. More buffoonery, small buffoonery from Wargaming. Talk about the sales. Talk about 1.0. It is on its way. A little discussion about the new Italian autoloaders as I've looked into these just a little bit. Those are going to be kind of interesting, so we'll talk about that just a bit. I'm going to show you the mod hub and kind of how that works. There's a couple things you probably want to know about that. I still don't run any mods, but I do like that Wargaming has started this mod hub. So we'll look at that, talk about that just a little bit, some of the ways you can navigate, I guess is the word I'm looking for, through the mod hub. And then we're going to have a little discussion, a little tactical discussion about friendly fire. Friendly fire. This was brought to the fore because of a post that I saw about arty friendly fire, but we're also going to talk a little bit about tank friendly fire and my opinion on friendly fire and whose fault it is, which is always going to be, strangely to me, I don't know why, controversial, but let's get started. We're going to start with missions today, and then we'll talk about the sales so I can get my shield on. They are somewhat related because, as usual, Wargaming is looking to maximize profits. Not necessarily a bad thing, but we'll talk about how they did it this time. Let's jump into the missions first. You can see I've got my black dog right here who's feeling a little bit lonely because he's been left out of one of the missions. Remember, it's Canine Week, right? The black dog Canine Week. He got left out. Let's jump into the missions and see what happened to the black dog. Disrespect. No respect for him. All right. So over here on the missions, we've got both the tank mastery things going on. They tend to overlap on those. So if you're looking for that little symbol with a little M for your tank, these are the particular tanks as usual. So it's Canine Veterans Day, and they've got a little mission set going on from March 10th to March 14th, which is cool. We always like little goodies and missions. So the first one is going to be 10,000 XP, and that's just solo. Then there's a platoon requirement to get these boosters here, and then there's top 5 XP in some tanks, and you get those. You can see I've done those over there, and my face is in the way for this bottom one, but if you look it down here, then this is the 10,000 one. All right, so the question then becomes, what do I have to do to finish the mission, right? That's always the question we want to know. So you look at this as usual in the UI and you say, all right, so 10,000 XP in the Rudy, Bulldog, or Panzer 58. Well, that makes sense to me. All right, that's the solo one. I just have to get 10,000 experience and I get these little goodies over here on the bottom. Let me slide it down again, so to speak. So that's pretty straightforward. It's Canine Week, but what about the black dog, man? It's a Bulldog. And the Panzer 58 is a Mutz, which I understand means bear in German. Now, in English, a mutt's a dog. Okay. Well, how come the black dog didn't make it? A bear made it, but not... All right, so if you go over here, this is the one that really kills me. When I first looked at it this morning, I hadn't really looked at the missions for a couple days, and I decided I'm going to play a little bit this morning. Let's look at what I can do. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I have some of these tanks. Well, the Rudy's a premium, so you've got to buy a tank for that. The Bulldog is just a Tier 8 American, so fair enough, and a Panzer 58 platoon. So this is the only card I can get to. There's no other information. I went to the website. There's a little bit more there. We'll talk about that in a minute. But now I'm wondering, okay, do I have to be in a platoon of just these tanks? Do I only have to have one of those tanks in a platoon? Is it a 2-man platoon or is it a 3-man platoon? I think you can pretty well assume it's either a 2 or 3. That's the usual thing for platoons. So that was not a big deal that that wasn't spelled out, but it sure would be nice if it was. But the idea that I'm having in my mind now is, do I need just these kinds of tanks in a platoon, or can I have one of these guys and 1 or 2 other tanks? And does it work with dynamic platoons? Usually they do. But again, this is stuff you could spell out on your UI to be very specific of exactly what it is you have to do. So I did a little bit of testing for you guys this morning, and you can dynamic platoon. You only need one other guy in the platoon, and you can platoon with anyone you want. You don't have to have these specific tanks right here. And when I dug into the website and looked at it, there's a little blurb on there. It says, all right, you've got to have the Rudy, no, the Bulldog, the Bulldog and the Panzer 58 Mutz, which means bear, by the way. And it says if you don't have either one of those, any of these tanks, never fear, because they're going to sell the Rudy and the Mutz. Never fear, you can spend some more money and then you can do these little missions. So do not despair, kids. Oh man, okay, fair enough. But if you look at this, that's a premium. That's a premium. And that is the only tech tree tank you can do these missions with. Come on, guys. One small other thing, the Schwarzpanzer, the Black Mutz also works. I have one of those. I used it. I did trip the mission with that. That's actually not listed here, but if you hit select a vehicle, it does tell you here. This select a vehicle button is probably your best way to find out what tanks are actually involved in missions, especially if it's a laundry list and they can't list them all across the top. I would definitely click on that, and that will tell you what you've got in your garage that will work. Remember, that's in your garage. If you don't have it in your garage, it won't show up right here, and you'll have to dig around and get your wallet out and buy yourself a Mutz bear dog thing. Anyway, Wargaming, come on, man. Okay, so that was exciting. I really got fired up on that. As fired up as I get ever, I suppose. All right, so events. You can see that we have the countdown to 1.0. 1.0 is on its way. I have tripped a considerable number of these missions. I haven't played very much, actually, and I've been able to get pretty close. I am minus about, what, 4 plus 2, 6 missions, and I have 6 more available. So if I do all the 6 that are left, I'll be able to get to the ultimate prize on that. But they're pretty easy. It's all standard play kind of stuff. I didn't even really try to chase any of these. And of course, when I say I'm not playing much, then that means I'm playing quite a bit compared to the normal player, but a lot less for me, which that's all out there. You can get some pretty good stuff. All these kits are very nice, especially large ones. Anytime you can build those up, that's fantastic. Fire extinguishers, and then you're getting the tokens, which is going to get you this big reward up here at the end of the mission. Event. This is an event, not a mission. I don't know why. Leopard 1 is on track, and I have discussed on tracks ad nauseum. Leopard 1's a little bit difficult. That tier 10 is not that great. It has not been given the turret buff that most tier 10 medium tanks have been given. So it's a little difficult to play in the current meta, but it's got a pretty good accurate gun and a lot of speed. It's a fun tank, but it's not terribly effective. And if you're not very good, it can be very, very unforgiving. But if you want that cool looking Leopard 1, then the on track is still going until the 16th, which is actually not very long, just another 5 days. So if you haven't started, you might be a little behind the power curve. And now we shill. Send me my money, Wargaming. You suppose that's ever going to work? Probably not. The Mauerbrecher, this big tier 8, sort of looks like a VK100.01 kind of tank. Premium is on sale. You can get the standard packages all the way up to spending $109 for a bunch of stuff you could probably win anyway other than the extra gold. The Mutz, which means bear, it's also on sale. Standard Act, you've got a bunch of different packages that you can buy it in right there, and then some other specials, the premium boost and some other things like that. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. The Mauerbrecher I've never played. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. Steeps. Fjords. Anywho, that thing it's a pretty mediocre tank from what I understand, but I am only saying that from what I've read. Don't take that as gospel. I don't have any kind of a review on it because I don't has it. Unable to tell you specifically. This tank, however, I can talk about because I do have the Black Dog, or not the Black Dog, but the Black Mutz, the Schwarzpanzer. It still holds up decently in the current meta. The turret is okay at a tier 8 premium medium tank level. It's actually pretty good, but remember that with the 357, all tier 8 mediums are suffering pretty horribly with the 357 setup. Still can be effective. Pretty good pen with its standard round, decent rate of fire, and pretty good mobility with depression. So it's got most of what it needs to be a good all-rounder. It just suffers a bit from the 357 like everything else does. I would say, though, if you're looking for a German premium medium, either it or the 8.8, and I think most people would say this one, the Mutz, is slightly above the 8.8. You do have to be pretty good to make the 8.8 work. I happen to like it quite a bit, but the Mutz is not a bad tank if you're still spending money on premium tanks. 1.0 cometh. Probably March 21st from what I understand, although, excuse me, the press release I read said RU on the 20th, which means we should get it on the 21st. That's going to be, we'll see how that all works out, but because this mission, the countdown stops on the 20th, I think we're all assuming the 21st will be the hard date for NA for 1.0 to come out, and that's going to be a big deal. Get that big download, and everybody's going to be playing on the new maps. We're going to lose a few maps. There's a couple new maps. I haven't determined whether they're actually going to be in the game or not. I think the plan is for them to be in the game, but they're also removing a few maps while they continue to work on them. As I've said before a couple weeks ago, that I think that's all up in the air. We will see what happens on the 21st as far as exactly which maps are ready to go and which are in the game. I think it's going to be a net loss in number of maps. Ideally, it will be a net game in gameplay. It's clearly going to be a net game in graphics if you like the pretty graphics. That's all very concerning to me because graphics are fine and I do appreciate the upgrade to the HD, but if the gameplay suffers or if it stays the same, then I think it's a net negative for wargaming in this game. There is a lot of information out there that the game is in decline. This is not a sky is falling decline, and it is an old game, and that's what games do. But a lot of games can last quite a long time. World of Warcraft, other games like that that are still going pretty strong. So we will see. This has never been a real, it is a Class A title overall, but in the States, as far as numbers who play it, it's not really there. Maybe it's at the lower end of a Class A title, but we can't afford to lose a whole bunch of players here before maybe Wargaming decides to pull the plug on these servers. We'll see. I don't have any kind of information. I'm not saying the move from California to Texas is the end times or anything like that, but when you make a reorganization like that for a large company and you are introducing such a large change or update to a game, that is a critical signpost on your highway, and it will be interesting to see what happens as we pass that signpost and move on to 1.0. So all that blah blah means around 21 March we're going to have essentially a new or highly updated game. We'll see how it goes. I did forget to mention that it's a ×3 weekend, and I'm going to mention it because I did appreciate the don't you forget about XP. I see what they did there. I like it. I like it. I'm not going to sing the whole thing. Alrighty then. The Italian Auto Reloader. The Italian Auto Reloader. There's a lot of information out there on this. And I have not played the test server, so I think some people, I don't know if the Italian tanks are on the test server yet. I know that they're on because you can do the comparison tool on the test server where you set up all the different tanks and look at them on the screen there and see all the numbers in comparison to each other. So that's available. None of that matters really because we're not going to really know how this thing works in the meta or within the game until it actually comes out and people start playing it in pubs. As I've said before, test server has a limited ability to find metas, has a lot of ability to find problems with specific models and tanks and the maps, things like that. Okay, so enough of that crap. For the auto reloader, what's happening here is very interesting. They're calling it a new mechanic, and it's kind of a combo of two older mechanics. It's going to be a reloader or an auto loader in respects that it can fire all of its shells right in a row with whatever the inter-drum reload is going to be, you know, a second, 2, 3, whatever it happens to be on that tank. So if it's got 4 shells, you can pump out 4 shells in a relatively short time. The problem with that on an auto reloader is obviously you have that big long reload. Excuse me. Or if you fired, say you're in a 5100 and you fired 2 shells downrange and you wanted to reload back the drum back to 4, you would have to hit C and reload the whole drum again. So the whole 30 or 40 seconds, whatever it happens to be, depending on the autoloader that you have. For these Italian tanks, what's going to happen is if I'm sitting there and I just want to run as a regular tank, I can fire that first shell out of my drum, and immediately that shell and the shell will start to reload. Okay, the fourth shell, if you want to look at it that way. Say there's 4 shells in a row. I fire the one in the front, the other 3 shift up, and it automatically starts to reload that 4th shell. Call it 8 seconds. And after that 8 seconds, I now have another 4 shells. If I want to fire 2 shells, I fire 1 down, I fire another round, those last 2 move up. It will start to reload those last 2 shells, but the first shell will take longer to reload. Okay, and then the second shell will take the standard single shell time. That means that if I fire all 4 shells, the first shell to reload will take a very long time. Third shell a little less. Second shell, sorry, a little less. Third shell a little less. Fourth shell a little less. So what you have is a combination of an autoloader and a regular tank with that kind of weird middle ground where if I fire a couple out, it will start to reload the 3rd shell because I've still got 2 in the drum and I'm waiting to reload 2, but it will take a little bit longer for that to happen. So what does that mean for gameplay? It's a good question. The first thing it means, I think, for good players is if you're in a situation where you just want to be poking and taking a shot down range, then you are basically running a standard tank with a slightly longer reload on the first shell that you shot down range, because you wouldn't want to make it exactly or as fast a reload as a regular tank, otherwise it may be a little bit overpowered. It could be anyway based on the way that they're doing it. So you're going to accept a slight decrease in reload on that 1 shell, but you will have the flexibility to basically just shoot a shell down range, pull back, reload, come back out, shoot again. Clearly that means now I've got another large bit of flexibility where if all of a sudden the opportunity presents itself, say I'm working a corner and I'm coming out, side scraping whatever, shooting, coming back in. I do that 3 or 4 times, but I'm able to keep that 4 drum basically reloaded the whole time. And then all of a sudden that guy's got enough hit points down, I can rage out and now I'm an autoloader. Bam, 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 I take him down. For a good player, that is an amazing amount of flexibility. But that's just talking about the auto reloader, whatever they're calling it for the Italian side. That's only talking about the auto reloading part of it. The question really becomes then is the platform that it's on, is it trash or is it good? A 5100 and even a Lorraine to a large extent has a lot of flexibility with the gun and the auto reloader, but the platforms aren't fantastic. Now they're fast, but there's no armor. There used to be a bit of a depression problem with both of them. But we're not getting into the specifics of those 2 tanks. We're just saying that the autoloader was hugely flexible, but sometimes the chassis, all right, or what was carrying it was not that great. So that will be, I believe, for the Italian tanks, the biggest question will be how good is the platform that it's on? And from the stats I've looked at it, they're basically very thin. So they're going to be running more like a French autoloader kind of idea where you've really got to stay out of the line of fire and use that autoloader to your advantage. And that then makes me think, well, that may limit the effectiveness of running as a standard tank where I can just shoot a round down range every 7 or 8, 9 seconds. Because now, the way we play World of Tanks is I need good turret armor because of all the funnels and the depression kind of fighting that we've all started playing. So I'm not really sure how that's going to all pan out for the Italian tanks, and I think, like I said, it's going to take 3 or 4 months seeing how the meta develops for the Italian tanks. What I do believe it's going to do is add an incredible amount of flexibility for very good tankers, for very good players, and potentially be overpowered in their hands. But we'll see what happens. It could just be a gimmick that's not that exciting. But I really think that it kind of covers up the problem of the autoloader that really good players have, where you clip out, now I'm just out of the game for so long. If I'm careful, now I can do the clip when I need to, or I can fight as a regular tank when I need to. That is hugely amazing for good players because it basically covers over the big negative for autoloaders while keeping the basic autoloader strength of clipping on the table. So, wow, man, it could be very bad if a bunch of the really good players are able to leverage that. But as I said, it's going to largely depend on the chassis, on the platform, and how those actually pan out. They are large, they are lightly armored, and that may be enough balancing factor to keep it from being overpowered. But guess what? There are a lot of examples of very lightly armored tanks where that balancing factor just didn't matter, because a very good player just wants a good gun and flexibility with the gun. That's all they really need. A good gun and flexibility with the gun. The channelized funnel maps have decreased that a little bit. Things like the CDC are now not as effective as they used to be. So it remains to be seen. The last part of that then becomes, what do the new maps do to the meta, right? So if the new maps open the meta up a little bit, then I think you got the possibility of the Italian tanks being quite good to overpowered. If it continues to be funnel days, they may just be a gimmick or a different way to run an autoloader. Anyway, that was a lot of speculation on my part after reading through it to figure out what was really going on with these things. And as I've said before, it's going to depend on 2 or 3 months down the road after they get released. What are they doing to the meta? All right, let's talk about the mod hub a little bit here. Again, I don't run mods, but they have built a centralized webpage where you can go get mods that are approved by them. Break. Wargaming is known to be arbitrary and capricious in a lot of their moderation, whether it's on the forum or with mods themselves. These are supposedly authorized mods on this page. There's already been people saying they have been banned even though they're using an authorized mod. But the question becomes, did you download it earlier? Did you add something else? It's hard to tell. But realize that there is some of that going on. Still, you have a pretty good chance, I would say, if you go to their mod hub, of getting a mod that isn't going to get you banned. So if that's what you want to do, have at it. And there's a lot of cool stuff in there. The XGM stuff, the session stats, I think, are particularly useful if you're new and you're trying to track how you're doing, although they can really get you stuck in the weeds sometimes. I recommend going vanilla, but the mods have a lot of cool stuff, different sounds, different skins. There's so many cool things you can do if that's what you want to do. So, the mod hub. Interesting, right? I'm on the main page here, and I'm looking around thinking, well, mod hub seems pretty important to the game, so how do I get to the mod hub? So I started looking around and went, all right, so game, download, update, news, development, events, full, well, it's not there. It doesn't say mod hub. Probably not in ratings. No, it's not. No, clans. No, that would be a silly place to put it. It's not a tournament. Media, screenshots. No. Oh, community. Mods are from the community. Profile, forum, players. Well, it doesn't say mod hub. Useful software. Assistant, Overwolf, tank. Seriously. You created a mod hub and there's no apparent easy link. By the way, World of Tanks magazine is defunct apparently. I clicked on it. I said, I didn't know they had a magazine. And I went to it and there was a warning that said, hey, you're on the old website thing, and it's apparently died off or something. Never fear, the Google is here, and I found it. It is actually in the news section. Why wouldn't it be? If you look over here, it is, well, this is the news item itself, and it says go to the mod hub. And eventually, when you find the mod hub, I'll tell you where it is. It's at wgmods.net. wgmods.net. That's how you get to the mod. It was a circuitous route that I took to get to the mod hub. So you can put mods in, so that's a little clicker there. And this is popular mods, and then we go down, well, actually this is not the main page, but anyway, I think it's in premium shop support. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, you can search the mods by the mod name. You can go through this for the different categories. Here they all are. I won't go through all of those, but you got Aslans, old school, solos. These are all some of the popular packs. The cool things about the packs, if you've never done this before, is once you download it and you bring in all the viruses and everything they pack in there. And just kidding. If you really want to be oh, what is that thing called? Bitcoin Farmer for somebody else. Make sure you download as much stuff like this as you can. I'm kidding. I'm sure they're all very clean, right? Anywho, the mod packs, when you download it, there's usually an installer that comes up, and it's very easy to use. You'll probably have all kinds of choices, and at least that's the one I used to use, where you can click all the different very specific mods that you want there, and it will download whatever it is you want that's included in this mod pack. So a couple of these do it that way, and that's a really good way. You can see they're rated pretty well, so these are very popular. Aslans and Solos especially. I haven't really heard of Old Schools, but there you go, very popular. As far as other ways you got to do it, if you click on this little button in the bottom left, that will bring up all the stats mods. Okay, that's what that means. Same thing you could do over here by going category stats. Same thing, you pull up the stats mods, and here they all are. You can see them all in here. Session statistics. So let's say we want to do session statistic. We click on that, and there's the download button, nice big and red, so you can see what's going on there. Tells you what's going on and how you install it. It looks to me like, you fix me in the comments down below, because you used to have to put them in the res mod folder. I think they've gotten rid of that, because all this tells you to do is put it into the World of Tanks folder. You must extract mods folder into main folder with game. So apparently it'll put a mods folder in there, and off you go. This one, this is a ESL kind of guy here. English is a second language. When you will extract, you will see a problem like some files already in this folder. Are you want extract with replacement? You must choose yes, agree with replacement. Replacement, I believe is what he's trying to say. Anyway, good on him. He can speak English better than I can speak whatever his language is. Or type it at least. In any event, that's how you do it. It will have directions on how you download the mod. It's not difficult if that's what you want to do. A couple screenshots on what you're getting out of it there as well. And that is pretty much the mod hub. I haven't downloaded anything out of it, so I can't give you any information past that. Like I said, I don't use mods. I recommend you don't, but there's no reason not to. If you want all that stuff, go for it. And especially now that this mod hub thing is going on, you have a reasonable expectation of not getting hammered and banned for mods. Break, as I've said before, if you don't have mods, it's highly unlikely you're going to get banned for it. If you have mods, there's always the possibility of arbitrary and capricious wargaming, either changing the rules or banning a mod and you don't know it, or just messing up and you get caught with a mod. The last thing is, how well have they vetted each one of these, especially mod packs, to make sure that somewhere on that long laundry list of items in somebody's mod pack, there isn't one banned mod that you click on and download and all of a sudden you're out of the pool. So just watch out for that, guys. All right, so the last thing on the docket is talk a little bit about friendly fire. Friendly fire is never friendly. It is controversial that it's even in the game. Some people would like to see it gone. I actually like it. I think it adds a level of difficulty, a level of, I'm going to say realism, even though I understand this is not a tank simulator. I like that there's friendly fire. It makes you think about when you fire. It makes you have to work together, especially when you're working in echelon or even when you're just aiming down range and seeing guys crossing your line of fire. It adds an interesting element to the game for me. That's my opinion on whether it's in the game or not in the game. As it is in the game, then we have a lot of complaints about it. There's two pieces to it, in my opinion. The first one is friendly fire from tank to tank. The second one is friendly fire from artillery. Let's start with artillery, because this is the genesis for me talking about it. There was a post in the forum, on the NA forum, about getting splashed by your own artillery, and there's quite a few posts like that. But this particular one was from a decent player, happened to be in my clan, so that's why I noticed it right off the bat. And there was a discussion about whose fault is it on friendly fire. And the majority of artillery proponents will come back and say, well, I teed up the target, or I put that mark on the ground, so if you're still in that when I fire, then it's your fault. And I'm thinking, whoa, that's not even close. That's not even close in my opinion. If artillery fires into a scrum, it is 100% their fault if they splash a friendly tank. Even if the shell doesn't go where they're aiming, which it often does not, or if somebody maneuvers and ends up getting into it, if you fire, you pressed the fire button, the left mouse button, that is your responsibility on friendly fire. Even if you tee up. As far as I'm concerned, teeing up the ground or the target is a suggestion for the tanks that are nearby. And if they can get out of the way without getting killed or exposing themselves to danger from somebody else, then fantastic. Go ahead and lay your shell in there and you've worked as a team and off you go. But if they can't get out of the way, or they won't, or you don't know what the reason could be anyway as an artillery player, unless you're in a platoon with him and he tells you to F off. So if you click left mouse button, that is 100% on you. Does that mean you don't necessarily do it because maybe he's about to die anyway and you're thinking, man, if I can thread this in here, maybe I can save this guy? I don't know. That's a case-by-case tactical decision you have to make. But I think that if you do that and you end up killing him, then you have to also understand, all right, that's on me. I did that. It's a game, got it. It's a pixel game. So you're going to probably fire those in there a little more often than you would real world. Again, we're just not a simulator, and I don't want to conflate that the real world friendly fire stuff is necessarily directly exactly the same as a game friendly fire. But the general idea of the guy who shot is responsible for his shot absolutely applies, I think, both in the game and the real world. In the game, it's nice because nobody really dies, and you can type now, hey, dude, I'm sorry. I was trying to kill that guy, and you may get yelled at or sworn at or whatever, but what I try to do then is, yep, that's my fault. I was trying to thread it in. RNG got me, you moved, he moved. None of that means it's not my fault. It's just that that was the situation that was presented. That's what happened, and I'm sorry. So that's the artillery piece. The same thing really applies for tanks, and I've discussed it in my videos multiple times. The thing about the tanks, though, is there's a couple other pieces that are interesting because you can go into sniper mode where you're zooming in, trying to aim at a weak spot on a tank, and you don't notice that guy coming from right to left, and you boom, you shoot him down. Or you're both in echelon, moving back and forth, you're aiming in and he pulls in front and you shoot him. In that case, my opinion, as usual, my opinion, it is the guy that fired. So even if you're being driven in front of, you did not clear your field of fire, and that is on you. There's a lot of circumstances that make it very difficult. We're talking about zooming in and you just didn't see him. Noted, that happens. But that does not change the fact that it was your fault that you clicked the left mouse button. And I get a lot of pushback on that. Typically not from military people, which is interesting, or not if you think about it. Because anybody who deals with firearms in the real world understands that where you point your gun and when you pull the trigger, it is 100% on you. Bad things can happen. A lot of things can be out of your control. But ultimately, the trigger was pulled by your little finger, and so it is 100% on you. Now, the mitigating circumstances explain how it happened, but it's still on you. Translate that to the game. Again, it's just a pixel tank game. Sorry, dude. I made a mistake. My fault. That's how I see the friendly fire thing in World of Tanks. And you'd be amazed how much mileage in this game you'll get by just sending him a note, or if you can during the game, just say, dude, sorry, my fault. Or afterwards, send him, hey man, sorry about the TK, that 100% my fault. And typically they're like, yeah, no worries, and off they go. Otherwise, you can get into the big screaming and spitting match. All right, so that is my take on friendly fire in World of Tanks. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. A little bit short there, although I may have babbled for a while. I don't know. We'll see how it pans out when I put this all together. We talked about the missions, talked about sales. 1.0 is on the way. A little bit about the Italian autoloader, some speculation on that. A quick look at the mod hub and how that kind of works as far as the web page itself goes. And then a long discussion on friendly fire in the World of Tanks for both artillery and the tanks themselves. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate your support. I did talk about this on a supplemental coffee talk last week. I have a big stack of replays right now. I may or may not get through all of them that are being sent to me. I'll try to knock a few out today so that they're ready for the week, but we're really just kind of waiting for 1.0 to show up. So grab your coffee. It's Sunday morning. Have a couple tank games. Listen to the coffee talk, and hey, tell me where I'm wrong down there. We'll see you later.